Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Ian Bailey here, and this week we are talking about my top 10 survival magic tricks. Let's have a look. Welcome back to the channel. I apologise, it's been a long time yet again. I'm not going to apologise anymore, okay? It is what it is. I tried to do weekly and failed, but nevertheless, hopefully the quality is still there, and I appreciate you coming back. Now, I have been listening to a brilliant podcast hosted by Jamie Dawes and the Alakazam team, and that is Desert Island Magic Tricks. What they do is they interview someone of notoriety and ask them their 8 favourite magic tricks that they would bring with them to a desert island, and then also I think it's a favourite magic book, and then also a non-magic item that you use for magic, and I thought it would be interesting to take this and look at it very, very practically. Now, if I was maybe on the podcast, I would talk about my 8 favourite magic tricks in general, but if you know me, I'm obsessed with EDC gadgets, and this isn't just within magic, this is outside of magic. I look at all sorts of things, pen knives and all sorts. And I thought it'd be interesting to put myself in a scenario where I've been sent out on a desert island to perform magic. However, I also need to survive after the show is over. That's right. I wanted to put together this is the only place on YouTube you're going to find this type of content. I wanted to put together a show that kind of fit it into a small case that is good for surviving in any situation, all right? But also, if I'm pushed to perform a show, I can do it with that exact same equipment, okay? You have come to the right place. We're going to have a look at the 10 C's of survival. Let's have a look. So there was a book written by a man called Dave Canterbury, and he looked at the 10 C's of survival, and many different groups have their own versions of these 10 C's, but ultimately it's 10 things that you need in order to survive in any situation. Now, this list isn't necessarily absolutely exhaustive, but it gives you a good idea of the type of stuff that you will need. Now, I'm looking at a slight alteration of that list by the Scouts. So the Scouts have a typical 10 C's of survival, and I want to take you through those and show you how they can be used for magic as well. So let's have a look at the first C. The first C is cover. Now, in order to survive out in the wild, you need shelter, right? And that's the C for cover. And in this case, a emergency poncho is the thing that I would take with me. Now, an emergency poncho is typically what you would see in places like Fort Park, the kind of clear plasticky ponchos. If I had the ability to bring a better quality one, I would obviously put that in my rider and let the people provide me with a better quality poncho. But I would take a poncho, because a poncho could not only be used, a better quality one nevertheless, can be used to cover yourself from the rain, but also you can use that to provide shelter in the form of a tent. All right, so that is my shelter covered. Now, what am I going to do with a poncho? I could do many different things with a poncho. You could use it to make yourself look like you're levitating. I remember buying this thing called the Wild Levitation. I don't know if anyone remembers that. Put it in the comments if you do remember that. That was one of the first ever tricks I brought, where your shoes are hidden underneath the cloak, and you can see your shoes rise up and rise down. It looks like you're floating. You can kind of change the different angle of your feet as you're floating up and down. So I could use it for that. The other thing is I could use it, not that I'm endorsing you rip other people's magic tricks or their act, okay, but I'm kind of assuming that on a desert island I'm not going to get into too much trouble, and this is basically to survive anyway. And I would use that for the Cloak of Invisibility that Matt King uses when he does his cards across. So it's a brilliant comedy piece. Put on the poncho and pretend as though this thing makes you invisible as you pretend to take the cards from one person and put them over to the other person's pile in their hand. If you haven't seen that act, it's really, really good. I recommend it. It's very funny, and I would use it for that. So that is the first C, cover. The second C is container. Now, in order to survive in any given situation, you need a way of containing stuff, especially water. And this one I do not own because I find it a weird trick, but in this scenario, you need it. And that is a condom. All right, you need a trick with a condom because, surprisingly, a condom can store a ton of water, a lot of water. They're very strong and they can provide you with a lot of water. So in a survival scenario, if you were to look on YouTube, I don't want to, send you down the wrong rabbit hole on YouTube, but there are lots of EDC survival people who recommend carrying a condom purely for that reason. Okay, now what magic can you do with that? There are, I'm sure, tons of tricks you can do, but the one I recommend is one by the French twins. I think it's called Magix, and it's basically a playing card that then turns into a condom. I'm not a massive fan of that style of trick. I have to, I think it's just not very tasteful. I don't think it is, in my opinion. So I wouldn't really endorse performing that, but it's an excellent way of sneaking in a survival piece of equipment into your act as you are being shipped off to this desert island. So essentially, you've got a playing card, you give it a shake, it then turns into a condom, and then, you plant the seed of them sleeping with you. Great. However, that condom is what we're interested in because that would allow us to contain a lot of water. So that is the second C on the list. The third C, I should say, is combustion. How on earth are you going to start a fire? That's the thing. Now, the best way to start a fire, and the easiest, most practical way, is obviously with a Bic lighter. Now, there are many different tricks with Bic lighters. I think Hotpoint came out. I think it's Hotpoint on Alakazam's website. This is with Pig Cake, where you get a coin and you heat it up with a lighter and then push the Bic lighter through. That's a great trick. I really recommend that. I also recommend Warning by Costa Kimlet. The great thing about that trick is that it uses just the lighter itself, apparently, and you peel the warning label off the lighter, burn it, and then throw it back on, and it kind of restores and it's back on the lighter. The great thing about that is it uses flash paper, which is a great fire starter, so that's really good. Another thing I've started doing is carrying this kind of magnifying glass and just kind of popping that back in my eye as though it's a contact lens. That has been in my pocket for ages and ages. I will put the credits up here. I know Nick DeFat, in his book, he has kind of taken the rights from Tommy. I was going to say Tommy Wonder, but it's not. I'm going to write it down. I always do this. I always get it wrong. Tommy, Anyway, really, really good trick. He has a whole version of kind of taking it out of contact lens case with the water kind of still on it and putting it in. Great stuff. For me, I just kind of carry it in my pocket and just kind of produce it and put it back in as though it's nothing. But that magnifying glass is brilliant for starting fires. So hot sunny day, I'm guessing the weather's nice in this desert island. Hot sunny day, hold that magnifying glass onto a pile of wood and you've got yourself a nice fire instantly. So that is combustion sorted. Look at this, we're surviving well. Fourth C is cutting. You need a knife in order to survive, okay? We are living two luxurious lives here, okay? We just don't even ever think about having to cut things on a daily basis, outside of the kitchen nevertheless. And I always carry a penknife with me. Now these vary in sizes. I've got small ones here. In fact, I actually did a video of this particular knife on my Magic YouTube channel where you can do a knife through bill trick. So it looks like you're stabbing the bill and then tearing it straight through, and then you restore the bill. It's a brilliant trick done with this small penknife here. So that would do, and that would do a very good job. However, if you want something a bit more substantial, I like the Victorinox Alox brand. These are really, really nice knives. So I carry one of them with me. Or the Victorinox Compact. Very, very lightweight. And also within this has a pair of tweezers It's also got a toothpick and also a ballpoint pen. So a really nice thing to have with you, as well as a corkscrew and all sorts of things of starting fires. But we need a knife. Now this is UK legal because it's under 3 inches and it's non-locking. Okay, so you could carry this around with you, but also I would take this on the desert island because I would do either the knife through bill trick, or I would do a card stab routine. And if I did a card stab routine, that will allow me to then bring in a pack of cards into the act as well, which would also help me to survive, because cards are brilliant as kindling for fire. But also, if you're working your way across a rough terrain or a forest or anything like that, if you are done with the show, because obviously you've done the show now you need to just think about surviving. As you go around the woods, you can tear or just leave a playing card at each junction to know where you were previously, which allows you to put it onto a tree or something like that, and it allows you to work your way back home, which is brilliant. So you've got a pack of 52 pieces of paper in that box, and you can really use that to your benefit with survival as well. So with that one trick, that allows us to bring in a knife for cutting and preparing food and preparing firewood, but also it allows us to bring in a pack of cards that gives us the ability to do lots of tricks, but also allows us to survive as well. Compass. Now, a compass you obviously need to know which way north is and everything for navigating across this rough terrain of this island, but also you can do a trick with a compass, and we all know and have seen Uri Geller moving the needle on a compass. Now, because we're not true psychics, we need a gimmick in order to do that, and that one thing is very handy for another trick that I mentioned earlier in this program, if you're going to call that survival guide, but that will allow you to move the compass. All right, so you've got quite a good trick there where you can make the compass needle move, but ultimately we just want that compass so that we can then work our way around that island. So that is compass. Number 6 is candle. Now, I'm not talking physically candle, physical candle, but candle light. And I like to carry this little torch around. This is only about a tenner on Amazon. And I use this in order, I perform this trick in order to then bring in some candle light. All right. I'm making out as though I actually do this. I perform on desert islands. I don't. Okay. But Planetarium by Manu Joe. A trick released by Vanishing Ink, and what you get is this card. You also get a gimmick that you can then apply to a spectator's iPhone or any phone with a torch on it, but what I've done is I've actually built in the gimmick into this little torch. I could sell these on my website. If you would like one, message in the comments and I'm sure I can work something out and I can make one for you. But what I've done is actually put the gimmick into this little torch so that I can use it as a normal torch, but then I can actually combine it with this card. Now this card, if you were to look at it, there's no pattern or anything on those holes there at all. If you were to shine a torch through it, it would just show nothing. It would just be lots and lots of dots. But I'm going to put I'm going to cut away into a video of me performing this with this torch, and what this does is actually reveals a playing card that the spectator has chosen or is thinking of. You shine it onto a wall, onto the floor, onto the ceiling. It can play really, really big depending on the distance and the brightness of the torch. And the fact that I've used this torch and not the iPhone torch means that you get a lot more lumens and a lot more brightness, which means that you can then perform it further away from the wall, which means it's then showing bigger for everyone else. So yeah, candle, great. I use this and Planetarium together, and that allows me to then bring on the torch onto the island and work my way around the island and find food and shelter for the evening. There you go. Number 7 is care. Now care, what we're talking about with care is we are just looking at duct tape, rope, stuff like that allows you to build things, to look after yourself. And in this scenario, I like to carry 550 cord. Now, if you were to do a quick YouTube search for 550 cord, you will know that this cord is very, very strong. I've got it in a plain white, which is nice. I've actually replaced some of my shoelaces with this cord because it's absolutely brilliant stuff. And it allows you to not only use it to tie stuff together and to build shelters and things like that with, but you can actually take the string, the core away, and it's made up of lots of fibers. And those fibers can then be used to start fires and all sorts. So 550 cord is absolutely brilliant. I would combine this with maybe this hex nut. This hex nut would be useful for other things as well. It could be used as a weapon if you needed to hunt for the night. I don't know. But 550 cord would allow me to do rope nut knot, which is an excellent routine that I love to perform, as well as fiber optics by Richard Sanders and any kind of rope magic. And I've talked about this on many podcasts and many of my own YouTube stuff. You don't need to carry a massive rope to your gigs. Unless you're performing on stage to thousands of people, having just this white cord is just as visual for a very, very large amount of people. So I really recommend carrying this in your pocket because you can do fiber optics with this, and you can also do rope nut knot or ring on string. I love Greg Wilson's Ringleader, and you can perform that routine with this cord. And once again, you've managed to get a bundle of cord now into your performance case, which will then allow you to survive on the island. Number 8 is cure. So we had care, we're now looking at cure, and this is looking at first aid kits. Okay, now you've got plasters and bandages and all sorts. A bandage you could use to wrap around and use as a blindfold, so that's a great way of bringing a first aid kit on. There is an excellent torn and restored playing card trick by Jay Sankey where you tear a playing card, a signed playing card, and just kind of rub it, and a plaster appears over that cut that you've made on that playing card. And then when you peel the plaster off, there's actually no cut on that card anymore at all. Really, really great routine. I love that routine. And that will allow you to bring the first aid kit on. But more specifically, I'm looking at safety pins. And these safety pins are brilliant for bandages and everything like that. But if you were to get the first aid kit, not only have you got the tricks I've just mentioned, but you could sneak in shrapnel. Shrapnel is a brilliant trick, which actually is a ring-on safety pin trick, and it was sold out like hotcakes at Blackpool. It did really, really well, and I really, really recommend shrapnel. And yeah, that will allow you to bring on a safety pin, and I would bring on the gimmick safety pin as well as some others as well, and that will allow you to then fasten stuff together, fix your clothing if it gets torn. Safety pins are very, very useful anyway. So that is the recommendations of a first aid kit and the tricks that you can do with it for cure. Number 9, we are almost there on our number 10 list of C's, and number 9 is calories. Now, calories, you're going to need something to keep you going, okay? Now, hopefully you'll be able to maybe hunt or find some plants that you can eat that are safe on this island. But as a kind of initial calorie fix, I highly recommend a Kendall mint cake, okay? These are very, very high in calories and will keep you going for a long time. But how do we do a trick with a Kendall mint cake, you may be asking? And I would do a card to candy bar effect. Now, there are tons out on the market. There's loads of different ones out on the market. I'm not going to name who you should go to because I think they're all very, very good. But I would do a playing card, signed playing card to candy effect. That's what I would do, and that will allow you to bring in a candy bar to keep you going. And number 10. We are there now. Number 10 would be communications. You need a way of communicating with others. Now, I would assume that there is phone signal on this desert island. Okay, they've asked you to come and entertain, and then they're going to desert you, and you're going to be left there in order to survive because you charge too much. I'm sure there's some reason, or you annoyed one of the guests, you said something terrible to one of the guests and now they've flown off without you and now you're stranded there. But I would assume that there's signal on this island, which means you can take along your iPhone. Now, I could speak for hours on the different tricks that you can do with your iPhone, and many of them are apps, many of them are just kind of general things, you know, kind of shortcuts and all sorts that you can put into your iPhone. And so I would bring my iPhone along and say that that is part of my magic routine. So that would allow you to then hopefully phone for help and you know, get yourself off the island. Another thing might be walkie-talkies. And if I had a walkie-talkie, maybe I would get someone else to go across the island and I would get them to maybe do an invisible deck trick or something like that, and get them to name a card over the radio, and lo and behold, that's the one that, you know, is turned face down in the face up pack or something like that. But communications, you basically want to bring your phone, and that will get you out of a lot of trouble. So those are the 10 C's of survival. Like I say, you will not find another video like this out on the internet. And I think if I was interviewed on a podcast where they asked me, you know, my top 10 magic tricks to take with me, this wouldn't necessarily be it. But practically speaking, this is the best selection of tricks to take on a desert island, because this will keep you living afterwards. So I hope you've enjoyed it. As I've talked about desert island magic tricks, do check out my discount code in the description and the comments below, because that will give you 5% off every single Alakazam purchase you make. Just by using my code at checkout, you will get 5% off every single order. It's not just a one-use thing. You can use it again and again, and it's a great way of just, you know, saving a bit of money. 5% doesn't sound like much, but actually it certainly adds up, and really you need to look after those pennies. So thank you so much for watching, and do check out my website, ianbaileymagic.com. And before I go, I forgot to mention this. In September, I think it's in September, I'm going to put the date up on here. I think it's the 19th of September. I'm probably going to get that wrong. I'm going to put the date here. I'm going to be lecturing at the Cardiff Magic Club. Very excited about this. Lord Harry has got me over here to perform and lecture at that club, and I cannot wait. The club is full of amazing magicians, including Rich Relish and Lord Harry and other people as well. I'm not going to name all of them in case I leave any out, but yeah, it's a really good club. I'm really looking forward to it. So that's on a Monday night, and then I'm going on holiday. I'm working my way up along the coast in Wales. Going to be stopping at Port Merion as well, where The Prisoner was filmed. It's basically like Italy but in Wales. It's a very unusual place. It's very cool. So we're going to be spending a few nights there, and then I'm finishing up Friday to Sunday, the following Friday to Sunday, up in Llandudno for the IBM Magic Convention. I'm going to be dealing. I'm going to have a dealer stand at this convention. There's going to be a lot of good names there. I'm very excited about it. I've never been to an IBM Magic convention before, and actually the fact that it worked out with Cardiff meant that it was a wonderful excuse of a holiday. So I'm looking forward to it either way. Whatever happens at that convention, whether it's you know, loads of people come or not many come, I'm going to have a wonderful time regardless. I'm looking forward to seeing all my friends there who are dealing and lecturing, and yeah, something to check out and to look out for. I can put the IBM website in the link as well down below. But thank you so much for watching. I've had a wonderful time looking at these 10 C's of survival. I hope you've enjoyed it as well, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.